After not seeing him for a month, John's first act wasn't to ask how I was doing, it was to shove a divorce lawyer's business card into my hand. "No need to drag this out," he said with a smirk. "Divorcing a wife who doesn't work and paying her $1,000 a month in alimony? Sounds like a good deal to me. Take care." Standing beside him was Emily, her arm hooked around his, wearing the same smug smile. "Fine. Let's divorce then," I replied so casually that John blinked in surprise before sharing a grin with her. Good. He wasn't much of a thinker, which meant my plan would be easier to pull off. When the divorce papers came through, I decided it was time to celebrate my recovery by making them both regret ever crossing me. My name is Sarah Wolf. I'm 47 years old, an illustrator and a children's book author. Drawing has always been my joy. I also had two lifelong friends, John and Emily. John happened to be my husband. It all began years ago when John asked me outright before I left for another college after high school. I was shocked. I'd always thought he liked Emily, but I had secretly loved him. After talking it over with Emily, I said yes. Emily had always been a complicated friend. Even as a teenager, she had a nasty habit of stealing other girls' boyfriends and dumping them once they became obsessed with her. Her parents worried, so John and I often spent time with her to keep her out of trouble. John and I married at 25. 4 years later, Emily introduced us to her fiancé, George, a polished professional working at a top-tier company. He was charming, polite, and we all got along well. Holidays and vacations often turned into group trips, train rides, and long nights with drinks. But 2 years into Emily's marriage, she got pregnant and everything started to crack. John and I had decided early on not to have children. We loved kids, but we valued our freedom. When Emily announced her pregnancy, John's behavior shifted. He quit smoking because Emily couldn't stand the smell. He started taking vacation days to drive her to doctor's appointments. I told him George might not appreciate his constant presence. "She's our childhood friend," John snapped. "She asked for help, and you're just being heartless." Heartless? I'd been buying baby things, helping in practical ways, but going to every obstetrician visit felt like crossing a line. John didn't see it that way. "What's the problem? You're not having kids." "Anyway," he said, glaring at me. From that point on, arguments became normal. After Emma, Emily's daughter, was born, John spent even more time with them, as if they were his second family. When Emma turned 6, the incident happened. The night before her kindergarten graduation, I found John rummaging through his suits. "What are you doing?" "You have a meeting tomorrow?" I asked. "No. Deciding what to wear to Emma's graduation," he replied casually. I stared at him. "You can't be serious. You're not her father." John's face darkened. "You still doubt me and Emily? I'm disappointed you can't even help out." "That's not the point," I argued, but he cut me off. "I'm going. Iron my shirt." He walked out, leaving me seething. That's when I picked up my phone and called Emily. "Sorry, Sarah, I'm borrowing John tomorrow." Emily's voice rang through the phone. "Borrowing him? For Emma's graduation? Won't George be upset?" "George? Oh, he doesn't know. I'll tell him after the ceremony." Her words stopped me cold. George didn't even know about the graduation, or, as I learned after pressing her, about any of Emma's kindergarten events. John had been filling the role of father, not George. The selfishness made my head spin. Emily, Do you realize how disrespectful that is to your own husband? Just because John's your childhood friend doesn't. What's wrong, Sarah? You're scary when you're like this. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Click. She hung up. I stood there, trembling with anger, but still, I ironed John's shirt, paired it with a tie, and the next morning, sent him off to Emma's graduation. From then on, Emily and John's outings escalated. Once a month turned into once a week, then 3 times a week. Even George began to suspect something. One evening, while they were out, George came to my house. Sorry for dropping in so late, he said, his expression tight. But there's something you need to see. It was the GPS history from a tracker he'd installed in Emily's car. 3 times a week, she had been stopping at a hotel, on the same days she went out with John. I didn't need him to spell it out. What do you want to do? I asked quietly. I want revenge, George said. Me too. I can't forgive them. We began plotting. I boosted my income again, while George worked from home. When Emily and John were out, George would bring Emma to my place, and we'd care for her together. They never suspected we knew, which let us collect airtight evidence. When our plan was nearly ready, we learned a devastating truth about Emma. For her sake, we agreed to wait until she was an adult to strike back. We braced ourselves for 10 long years. Then my health collapsed. I was diagnosed with a serious illness requiring at least 2 years of hospitalization. I told George, and then, reluctantly, John. I'll visit you sometimes, was all he said. He didn't ask what I had, or how serious it was. And he barely visited, once every month or 2. When Emma turned 15, she began to withdraw from me, and I didn't know why. Neither did George. She only told us, don't worry about it. The answer came from John himself, the next time he appeared, now with a flashy, almost arrogant air. Without so much as a greeting, he thrust a divorce lawyer's card at me. Divorcing a wife who doesn't work. Pay you $1,000 a month in alimony. Sounds good, right? Take care. Emily stood beside him, arm wrapped possessively around his, both wearing matching smirks. Fine, I said calmly. John looked briefly surprised, then smiled back at her. Good. He wasn't much of a thinker, which was exactly why my plan would work. Once the divorce was finalized, I called George. We arranged for me to transfer hospitals, and he moved nearby with Emma. She still looked troubled, but she visited me daily. I told John to throw away my remaining things. I wanted nothing tainted by their hands in my new life. Then one afternoon, I came back to my hospital room to find 30 missed calls. When I finally answered, John's voice was frantic. What the hell is going on? A real estate agent's voice murmured in the background. Emily's yelling cut through the line. What do you mean? I asked coolly. About the house. Why do we have to move out? Because it's my house, I replied. He'd conveniently forgotten the truth. I'd rented that place years ago for my freelance work. He'd never paid rent or utilities, only small living expenses. The lease had been cancelled the day after I filed for divorce. But where are we supposed to live? I don't know. Maybe a business hotel. Don't screw with me, he snapped, then softened his tone. Whatever. Just transfer the money. We're low on cash. What money? The $11,000 I told you to send. Oh, I don't recall agreeing to that, I said lightly. John exploded into incoherent rage. I let him rant before cutting in with a cheerful, "Anyway, we're strangers now. Don't contact me again. You'll hear from my lawyer." Huh? Lawyer, wait. I hung up. He tried calling back, but I ignored every ring. Soon, my lawyer informed me John had started dodging legal contact as well. Childish, selfish, but predictable. A few months later, during a temporary release from the hospital, I went to visit John's parents. John and Emily looked small and pale, trembling under my father-in-law's stern glare. "You told them? About my parents?" "That's a low blow," John snapped. "I just told them we got divorced," I replied evenly. John glared, but his shoulders sagged under his father's eyes. I'd always been close with my in-laws, dinners, visits, even when John wasn't around. They'd treated me like family, and hiding the truth from them had felt wrong. "Is it true you're marrying Emily?" my father-in-law asked, his voice cold. "Yes," John said, puffing himself up. "Emily, Emma, and I are going to start over as a family." "What are you talking about? Your only family is Sarah." "She's not my family anymore," John said with a smirk. My father-in-law's expression said, "Give me a break." John shook his head and slid a paper across the table, a luxury hotel bill. "What's this?" I asked. "The hotel we stayed at," John said as if it were obvious. My mother-in-law's face went red. "I didn't raise you to be like this." Emily crossed her arms, still smug. "Why so angry? You'll have a real grandchild now, one with John's blood. Isn't that better?" Both my in-laws turned to me, clearly disgusted. They'd always respected my choice not to have children, and they'd always treated Emily as my friend, not their daughter. Emily knew that, and still pushed this. "You'll be happy, right?" Emily pressed. "It's because she's a child. You've known since she was little. And half her blood is John's." Her tone made my skin crawl. Then a voice cut through the room. "Enough. It's disgusting." Emma, sitting in the corner with her phone, didn't even look up. The silence was deafening. "My dad is the only father I have, whether by blood or not. He's the only one." Emily blinked. "But John's always been at your school events." "I heard everything from Dad," Emma snapped. "How you told him dates only after events were over. How you eventually stopped telling him at all. But Dad always said I was his daughter, and I am, and I'll never be yours." She walked over and sat beside me. "When I found out, I thought you'd hate me," she said softly. "But Dad told me that wasn't true. That's why I came today." I hugged her tightly. "Emma, I love you. You visited me every day in the hospital. That meant everything to me." Emily's smugness faltered. I smiled faintly. "Oh, and Emily?" Wondering why I wasn't surprised. "Emma's John's daughter? We knew 10 years ago." Emily's head jerked toward the doorway. George stepped in. "Understandable you're shocked," he said calmly. "But you're not divorced yet, Emily. Papers are still here." He waved them. "You never noticed? The 100-day waiting period for remarriage? You're still my wife. Emma's still my daughter." Emily stammered, "But a 15-year-old can choose." "Emma wants to be with me, right?" Emma's hand tightened around mine. "No. I want to be with Mom." Emily's mouth opened. But John interrupted with a laugh. "Oh, I get it now. You two are together. Too bad you can't survive on George's salary. And you're sick, you'll just die broke somewhere." I laughed, and that stopped him. You never knew about my income, did you? What, some pocket change from part-time work? No. My annual income is $500,000. John's jaw dropped. Emily froze. I've become one of the top children's book authors in the country. My books sell worldwide, I'm constantly in interviews, and there's a film adaptation on the way. Liar. I held up my phone, showing my bank account with monthly deposits that made Emily's face drain of color. Sarah, let's make up, John said quickly. Emily spun toward him, furious. I stood. If you want to marry, go ahead. Just remember, I'll be collecting compensation for damages. I took Emma's hand and walked out, leaving my in-laws nodding in approval. After that, everything unraveled for them. John was fired from his father's company after being caught lying about work. His father arranged for him to work on a fishing boat, and the calls begging me for help eventually stopped. Emily lost custody of Emma and divorced George. She ended up in a rundown apartment, juggling part-time jobs to cover her own expenses and child support. She'd never worked during her marriage, and now no one wanted to hire her full time. Emma thrived. In high school, she began working toward her dream, to study abroad and translate my books for children around the world. As for me, my books kept selling. My health improved, and my doctor said I might leave the hospital next year. George and Emma visited me every day, and recently, George proposed. I haven't answered yet, but I think I already know. Until then, I keep writing. Because my future, unlike theirs, is bright.